Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail with another edition of Scrolls Growth Let's Play, where we are taking our Monogrowth deck against TC Thunder. And this is going to be a post-commentary once again, and I do want to get back to some live commentaries, but it just depends on my schedule, and right now, just around the holiday season, it's been more of a time for me just to get a game in here or there, and you can't always cherry pick and see what's going to be what. But this is a game between me and an energy player. Sounds familiar? Probably. But I'm trying once again to get to 1700 rating, and at least I get an opening draw, something I can work with. I can drop a Vetter early, I can put an Eye of the Eagle early, and I get 2 Eyes of the Eagle, which I don't really need to, but I hold on to them anyway. So there's 1 Vetter down. And we'll see what TC has to say. I make a comment about friendlier than my last opponent because my last opponent said some not very pleasant things to me, but there's the Vetter dying immediately, which is I'll kill it with love, thank you. But yeah, that's something that I see energy players do more and more, is they recognize the ramping capability of the Vetter and they will gun for it pretty quickly. So I'm having some trouble getting them to actually survive a few turns, but right now I do get a Kinfolk Brave, which is a great draw for me early in the game because it lets me put some very early pressure. But once again, as this is an energy deck, it's very likely that he'll be able to react immediately to it. But still, decent cards in hand, and there's an Inferno Blast to drop his life at least a little bit. Don't know if I would have necessarily, if I have saved that for maybe if there's a cluster of creatures, but I mean I can't see his hand. This is using the Summoner mod to look at the replay, but right now at least I'm going to be able to do some idle damage. I ditched the Ranger's Bane because I find it less useful against energy decks, especially ones that likely focus on structures instead of creatures. But, I mean, Ranger's Bane is good to have, but when they have nothing on the board, there's not a lot for me to do. So there's the burn. And see, that burn there, just maybe he didn't have it in hand before, but it's almost better to maybe save that Inferno Blast for a cluster of enemies than doing 1 damage. That may not make a difference because there's a lot of board clearing cards that energy has that can deal with that with a 2 health creature. But there's a Brother of the Wolf right on cue. I have a Mangy in my pocket. Not always great to play by themselves, but maybe good to be a chump blocker against Copper Automaton that's gonna kill my Brother of the Wolf if there's nothing I can do about it. So look at that, brothers and mangies. Not too much to say about that other than there's my chump blocker. Want this guy to survive. Hopefully, well, I mean TC has some options here, and you can see he's putting up a Hellspitter Mortar just to protect this Dust Runner. And Dust Runners give this deck especially some significant problems. Because if you're not familiar with their ability, if something has 3 health or less, and that's not max health, that's current health, it dies. And I play a lot of low health creatures in this deck, so right now it's a matter of deciding what do I want to do with my cards. And I elect, I elect to drop the Brother of the Wolf, and instead of putting a tiny wolf out, to go ahead and do damage to this mortar, because I want that mortar taken care of ASAP. But we got a Dust Runner. Yeah, a Spark as well. So the Dust Runner can actually kill this Brother of the Wolf, and you'll see it in action. Poof, poof, gone. So that Hellspitter Mortar is not going to live to see another day. I do get an Eagle Eye, which is pretty good, and I get a Great Wolf, which is a great thing to have in my hand. So I go ahead and drop that down. Or excuse me, that wasn't from the Eye of the Eagle. I actually drew scrolls from it. I was about to say, how did I play that? But there we go, I have a Mangy combo in my hand that I've been holding on what feels like forever, as long as the Hellspitter Mortar doesn't ruin my day, as they tend to do. So we'll see, he gets a second Dust Runner out, which is always pleasant. They're great at parties. And there's the Brother of the Wolf. So that's unfortunate on the one hand, but I do get a nice Crimson Bull draw, because I could drop the Mangy Wolf and Crimson Bull and take out everything here, because that'll be 6 damage. Well, maybe not everything, but almost everything. But, I mean, that's better than letting these guys just pew away. I don't want the Hellspitter there doing anything else. So I sack the Sister of the Wolf, because I do want to hold on to that fertile soil. And I do want to go ahead and make this play. It doesn't totally clear his board, but it does a lot more than otherwise would. So we have one little Dust Runner, not very happy. And that was actually an interesting mistake by him. Well, I guess not really. He burned twice, and he cleared my board. Because he didn't have to do that, but I can see where he killed my mangy wolf, so not really a mistake, but yeah, spark and burn. And all I have left is a Kinfolk Veteran, which is great because now we're kind of at a board reset. I have in-hand card advantage if I can make use of my Fertile Soils. He has 3 cards and 6 energy. So there's still plenty going on here as we get a Scattergunner and a Bombard. So what's nice about that is that's 6 energy for an instant play that's going to take out my Kinfolk Veteran. So not a lot you can do here. We're at turn 10, kind of reset for position. I've done 2 idle damage, which is insignificant, but the Kinfolk Veteran is going to be worthwhile for taking that guy out. And the reason I sack the Fertile Soil is because I have no creatures on the board, and I do want to play this card. So I'm at 6 energy. I'm at 6 growth. I'm kind of happy with that amount of resources at this stage of the game, because I can play the Kinfolk Veteran, I can play the Great Wolf next turn. And at this stage of the game, it's questionable whether I want to hold on to the God Hand or not, because don't get me wrong, they are super useful. But if sometimes you need to get more stuff on the board. I like to hold on to him if I can. Like, there's a Gravelock Elder that can cause some pretty good problems, especially with the Potion of Resistance. So now he's not going to get killed by haste or anything, but I do get an Ancestral Totem and a Great Wolf out. So let's see what he does instead, because right now what I'm trying to do is spread the board, put pressure on as many areas as I can. I could have moved the Great Wolf up here, but I really don't want him to do some tomfoolery of taking this Great Wolf out. Although his 1 card could be a Violent Dispersal. So let's hear another Scattergunner, and it's all protected by the Gravelock Elder. So he moves him up there. And now I can't hurt that Scattergunner very hard. I do have a sister that I can play as well if I want to. And you can see that I'm making a few mistakes here. Just kind of a good logical thing there is I flub with the Rumble. You're going to see me say bah on that, because there was a decent chance that these 2 guys would end up on the same row, but I was hoping they'd somehow separate, or I could get the Scattergunner with my Veteran. But yeah, what you want to do with the Sister of the Fox is not what I did there, which if there's a card that you don't want to sacrifice, you play her and then see if another card comes up that maybe you want to get rid of. Unless of course you want to get rid of the sister, then you can do whatever you want. So it'd be great if I had if I could use the Crimson Bull to kill this guy, but with the Potion of Resistance, not happening. So right now I try and split up my forces a little bit, and to be honest, I'm not entirely sure why I didn't move my Veteran down as well. But that's 3 idle damage. And somebody's going to get shot and possibly killed if he has another Inferno Blast. He can take out that entire top row. But no, there's the Violent Dispersal. I figured he had one in his hand. Generally, if there's 6 resources, you can expect your big creatures to start dying. And you can see I'm not terribly happy with my hand all of a sudden. He has some good damage out. He's going to be able to clear my board pretty soon, and I have what could almost be considered a dead hand. Unleash Inner Power is a good enchant if he has something to enchant with, same with the Crimson Bull, but all this added damage isn't going to do me any good, especially not without a Rallying, and especially not with a Potion of Resistance. So this is where my Monogrowth deck, at least my old sort of aggressive, just ramp up as much damage as possible, maybe it's not translating as well to the higher levels, and that's where maybe I need to tweak my deck some more. But you'll see what I do here is kind of the only sensible move is use the Fertile Soil. Hey, I'm smart sometimes, and I get a Great Wolf, a Vetter, and a Mangy Wolf, which are all very good cards. Things that I can definitely use is now I'm at 8 energy, and you can see the burn on the Vetter right away. Good priority target. I try and move my Sister, the Fox, down to at least not have her unnecessarily die. But there's a second Potion of Resistance, so that is 6 rounds of immunity for the Gravelock Elder. I don't want to say super crazy, but definitely a useful proposition for him. Now I get a Ranger's Bane, and that's going to be useful because I can either kill the Dust Runner or the Scattergunner. Meanwhile, I do have the Great Wolf Mangy combo in my pocket. I could Unleash Inner Power this guy, because that'll reduce him to 2 health even with the Potion of Resistance if I can do a Quick Strike. I have the Ancestral Totem and the Crimson Bull to buff my damage as needed. So I have plenty of cards to play with, but those Violent Dispersals just, it's not like pushback against order, it's just gone completely, and that really wrecks what I try and do sometimes. So I sack a card. Sorry, I missed what card it is. I know some of you have suggested that I pay a little more attention. It'd be nice if there's sort of a step mode instead of straight up play for Summoner, but maybe that'll come. But Ragged Wolf and Sister, 2 more decent cards to pick up. And I'm going to take a little more damage here as I wax a little bit with TC Thunder, who's a very friendly opponent. It's nice to see that. And there's the, let me talk about what's actually going on in the game. The Concentrate Fire is going to go ahead and let him just kill one of my idols, which it takes 3 idols to win, so I can live with that. The bigger problem is that he has these guys protected in 2 lanes, and I did talk a little bit about my prior game in this series. Check it out, episode 25. Very good game, also against Energy. I do have a pretty interesting run of games versus Energy in this series. It's just kind of how the cookie crumbled. But yeah, so it's your I could actually play 2 Ragged Wolves and a Mangy Wolf here and buff the crap out of my guys, and Crimson Bull as well. I could Crimson Bull, I could Ancestral Totem, because all these hasted units are going to do some good here. And I elected Crimson Bull just to save the Ancestral Totem for a little later, plus the 2 damage overall actually lets me clear the board, but this is where you have this many creatures on. That Ancestral Totem starts to be good as we Iron Whip. And he almost takes out my Great Wolf. Not quite, but almost. And once again, you want to pay attention to how much of a resource your opponent has here. He has 5, and he has 2 cards in his hand. So that tells me that either there's something he doesn't want to have happening, or just that he didn't really have anything to play, because I expected him to take out my Great Wolf once he Iron Whipped. And I was very surprised that he didn't, so I don't know if he's saving for something. But I have another God Hand in hand, and I actually sack an Ancestral Totem and get an Ancestral Totem. So what do I want to do here? I elect to God Hand, I believe, if I remember this right. And that way I can take out 2 idols, because we have 6, and then 10, and then 8 damage there. And I leave 1 wolf up here because he's not going to do damage otherwise. I'd rather get this guy down to 2 damage, or 2 health. So there's the God Hand, and here's the Thunder Surge, which I knew was coming the moment I clumped this up. And the reason, if you saw it before, or if you thought, oh no, he has over 6 energy, he's going to Thunder Surge, I will take that trade. If I have this much board control, if he only has 1 thing on the board, and I can take out 2 of his idols, usually you want to use God Hand to end the game, but this really puts me at an advantage. But it's a risk. It's a risky play. As you've seen in previous games, Energy players, once they get ramped up in resources and cards, have a great tendency to defend their castle, as it were. So, that I clumped up and took out those 2 idols, it was the right decision in my mind there, but hindsight being 20/20. It's a dangerous play. Maybe I shouldn't be so reckless, but my recklessness is kind of what's gotten me to this point so far in Scrolls. But I do get a Rally, and I do get a Ragged Wolf. And I'd elect to actually get rid of the Rally because it's not going to do me a ton of good. There's other things that I want, so Unleash Inner Power, Kinfolk Brave, I can play the Totem. I can actually play almost everything. Probably save the Totem for next turn just to have it timed with everybody's attack. But I do Unleash Inner Power on my Brave, and I could have played the Ragged Wolf. I guess I didn't because I could play it with the Totem. I wanted to see if maybe I need to save one to sacrifice, but there's the Spark, and that's the problem with playing Kinfolk Braves against Energy, is that they have so many ways to kill them. It's not like Order with 2 Kabonks or Growth where you can hide them from veterans or pray that you don't get baned. But right here, he's just going to take out some more, or he's going to do more idol damage. And see, that's where the risk kind of necessarily doesn't go with the reward, because now he has a Gravelock Elder, and he has a Cannon Automaton out, so not exactly board advantage for me. But I do have some cards I can play. I get rid of the Rally, and God Hand is great to have. I could play a Ragged Wolf and an Ancestral Totem and do some damage here. And that may be the smart play to do, but why would I do the smart play? I God Hand on turn 18 to do 3 damage to 1 thing, and hurt one other thing entirely. That's probably because I have the Ancestral Totem and Ragged Wolf and can just Bear Paw whenever I want, so maybe not the smartest play. Once again, a little bit reckless by me, but I get rid of the Bear Paw, which is a card that's I'm probably going to replace here in a little bit. But let's see here. Ranger's Bane would actually take this out next turn before he could attack. So looking back at this is kind of an unnecessary move. I don't need to go for this lane down here. I could have gone for damage against the Gravelock up here. But it does let me save the Ranger's Bane. It does let me put significant pressure down here. Because remember, he has armor 1, but because of the totem, I can take him out. So I can play a Kinfolk and I can play a Vetter, but I decide to poison the Gravelock Elder. Because it might as well get that taken care of, I guess. Just choices. And now I have a Kinfolk Brave I can play next turn. Notice my units are spread. I'm very conscious of the Thunder Surge. There's an Inferno Blast to once again take my 1-turn Vetter out of there. And I can Fertile Soil and do some things. And you see I Fertile Soil the Ragged Wolf because he did his job. He took out the unit, and now I get 2 Kinfolk Braves. I have a lot of cards I can play with. Another Ancestral Totem will actually let me kill this guy this turn. So I get a few more cards. Decide I don't need 2 Braves, but right there, 1 extra totem. It's been a long time since I've had 2 Ancestral Totems out at the same time. Suddenly, my forces are pretty scary. And he drops a Destroyer, and that tells me too that maybe he doesn't have a lot in his deck. But this Destroyer will take out this totem next turn if I'm not careful. So I elect to God Hand again, which is a weird move looking back. I don't know. I was God Hand happy apparently here. But I wanted to take out what was on the top and the bottom, the mortar, because I get burned by mortars. I could have just played the Veteran, played it safe, hoped the mortar didn't hit me, but I wanted to clear his board. So, like I said, my play style, I don't know. It must have been in a really weird place this night, because these are kind of moves that don't feel typical for me. But those are 3 cards I really like. Kinfolk Brave, Kinfolk Veteran, and Great Wolf. And you can see here that once again I try and space my cards. And what this means is that if I can time things right, I can either take out the 2 health idol, or I can move everybody up here and take out the 10 health idol. But of course, using my God Hands as I have, and it would have been better probably keep one in my pocket, I could have possibly ended the game sooner. But there's the Inferno Blast, and there's a Violent Dispersal. So it's going to come down to the end here. The Vetter's going to die, so he doesn't do me a lot of good. If I could just get a Ragged Wolf or something, I could end the game. Or a Rally, I could end the game, but I don't. So we're just going to go with the creatures that I have. And TC Thunder is kind of in the position where a lot of my energy opponents are down, but definitely not out, because he can keep direct damaging me. He can put up defensive structures like the mortar, or there's plenty of defensive structures that energy has, but there we go. I do say GG here. And where's the GG come from? Because one good habit to get into, and one that I'm trying to do better about every time, is I look at the board and I say at the beginning of every turn, can I win this turn? Which isn't a very hard question in turns 1 through 5 or 8 or 10. But by round 24, you need to look at your options, and you need to remember, if there's one more idol, can you take it out? And I can here by playing a Ragged Wolf and a Crimson Bull. Crimson Bull will do enough damage to take out the Hellspitter. And there we go. Don't even need it for the idle damage, but it's all gone now. So there I am, and I hit 1700 exactly. So I'm in the top 1000. Not super hill of beans, but still a good game. Like I said, a weird, not exactly typical game for me. There's some, looking back, there's some head-scratching decisions, but probably the biggest takeaway of this game for me is that I'm going to need to retune my deck. I'm going to need to add some utility to it just to try and make it work with the quality of players and the quality of decks that I face in the upper levels of Scrolls. Because my super aggressive, super just try and out damage somebody as much as possible, there's so many ways to counter that. And now that I'm facing far more competent players, I do face counters quite often. And I want to be able to win more reliably. But for now, that's a victory. I've hit another one of my little mini goals moving up. So I hope you all enjoyed that. This is Way to Fail with another Scrolls Let's Play. I will see you all next time.